Welcome to your weekly astrological weather. This is your place to get practical guidance for not only surviving, but thriving with the cosmic tides. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to your weekly astrological weather. I am so happy that you've decided to join us for this week's forecast, and I am beyond thrilled to be here today with astrologer and head mistress of the School of Magic and Mastery, Donna Woodwell. Any of you who have been in our audience for more than 3 years knows Donna very, very well. Donna is one of the astrologers that we first partnered with in the very beginning of Astrology Hub 7 years ago. And she's the one who introduced us to so many of the astrologers that helped us get our start. So Donna is absolutely a part of the foundation of Astrology Hub, and it's so much fun to have her back. So Donna, welcome back. And actually, the weather started with Donna. And I mean, the podcast started with Donna. It was Donna and myself co-hosting the podcast. So it's an amazing full circle moment to have you back, Donna. Thanks for joining us.
It's my pleasure being here.
If you want to learn more about Donna, who is absolutely brilliant, and her story is so interesting and her path is so amazing, you're going to have a chance to do that in 2 days. We are starting the house series, which is where I'm interviewing different astrologers about each of the houses. And we're doing a deep dive on all 12 of the houses. This is totally free. It's part of the podcast. And Donna is covering the third house. So this week we start with the first house. Sam Reynolds is going to be talking all about the first house. But then in week 3, you're going to get to hear from Donna on the third house, and you're going to get to hear a little bit more about her story. But in the meantime, let's dive into the weather for this week. Donna, what would you say is the overarching theme for this week?
This is a week to chill, especially in the first part of the week. And later in the week, Wednesday, Thursday, you might have some relationship things come up. But Amanda and I will talk about that. She's actually better at relationships than I am. So I will try to get her to share her wisdom with all of you.
Oh, goodness. Okay. All right. So it's a chill week. What do you mean by that? Why are you saying that?
All right. So when we think about astrology, you've got to realize that not every moment has a big old spotlight on it, other than it invites you to pay attention to where we are right now. Sometimes the energy is on red alert. Sometimes it's on just meh. It's the in between, the ups and downs of life that we move through. We're on week 48 of the year that is known as 2022. That's a part of a larger cycle that is teaching us how to move into a whole new mindset, a whole new way of being, which really begins to pick up steam in March of next year. So this is a moment in time where, yes, there's a little energy shift. There's a little tension that's starting to brew, maybe in your relationships, especially about what you love versus where you want to put your action. But I don't think people are going to be making huge, major life-changing decisions until we get into next year, when all this stuff that's just loosening up right now becomes, I can't handle this anymore. I must shift. And so think of it as a preparation week. Obviously, pay attention to what the energies are doing every week, because everything gives you an opportunity. Isn't that a wonderful word? An opportunity to think about how you're living your life, where you're putting your energy. But generally speaking, this week, I wouldn't stress. I would just go with the flow and see what it brings you.
I mean, I know for myself, this is a bit of a relief that there's a week in this. These last few years obviously have been so intense and so packed with energy that it's really kind of nice to hear that we're having a break from that, and that we can fortify ourselves and prepare for things to come. When you say that it's a preparation week, and you're talking more long-term preparation, so we're looking all the way into March of 2023 at this point. what are we preparing for?
That is an excellent question. So next year, between 2023 and 2026, what's happening is that Pluto, Uranus, Neptune, and Saturn are all switching signs. Pluto goes first. We get a little taste of the shift into Aquarius next year for a couple months. 2024, it spends a lot more time in Aquarius until it's there permanently. But all of the signs are moving from feminine earth and water signs, very yin, to yang fire and air signs. So by the time we get to 2026, all of these super slow moving outer planets are moving into much more dynamic, focused energy, a lot less emotional and reactive, that I think is going to feel so much different than where we've spent the last 15 or 20 years, that we're going to be thinking much more about the future than we are about where we've been in the past. And you put that in conjunction with what the United States has been doing the last few years, and this Pluto return, this heavy dealing with the collective shadow, putting it in our faces. I think we're going to move into a state where we recognize that, yes, shadow is real, but what are we going to do about it, rather than just pointing fingers at each other and yelling about it and not really getting a lot accomplished? What that's going to look like, I think we're going to discover it as we go along, because we're finally going to have a new kind of energy to think outside the box. I mean, we really haven't had that. It's been at this gestating energy. It's like the baby's finally being born, and we have a different set of possibilities that we haven't had when it's happening in the subconscious waters that we're not 100% in ownership of. I think something's going to happen between now and then. We realize we've got to get control of our technology. We've got to get control of how we relate to the environment, and we got to understand how we relate to one another as individuals, as communities, and as countries around the world, in order to deal with what's coming. And that's an awful lot of shift happening in a relatively small geological frame of time. 3 years is not that long. I know it sounds terrible when we're talking about like, oh my God, how am I going to get this thing done this week? But in astrological terms, Amanda, astrology has been around for 7 years. And I remember the beginning, and we would be talking about things that were happening 2 years out in advance. And you're like, no, I don't want to look at that. That's too far away. And I'm like, it's going to come fast. So this stuff's going to come fast when we realize we're on the other side of it. So there you go. That's how this fits in. The preparation going on is like, okay, it's been crazy, but not every year can be like, oh my God, another 2020. No, 2021. Oh my God, not another one. We can't keep saying this every year. Please don't have another year like this. Things have slowed down than they were a couple of years ago. They are weird and unsettling, but they're not the same way they were. And we have to use these moments to do our internal house cleaning, our getting ready for what's next and where we may end up, because so many things are going to be different, and what that's going to look like for our lives. I mean, I remember like years ago, we were talking about things are going to change so much that most people listening are going to need new jobs, because what we've done before is not going to be working. We are continuing in that direction, and it really doesn't start to clarify completely. But think of how many people have gone through such change already, and there's just more of that. It's just nothing major is happening this week. So take advantage of the fact that like Mars retrograde is trining Saturn in Aquarius. What does that mean? That's Monday. That means Monday's a good day to just get stuff done. Trines are nice. They're easy. They're an opportunity. But if you don't take it, the world's not going to end. You know, I would get stuff done earlier this week rather than later, because later is just slightly messier than the beginning. Tuesday, moon is void basically all day. Moon void, of course, is basically like the waves are really calm. Nothing's being pushed into the beach. People aren't picking up the phone. They're not calling you. You just get a chance to like breathe and put things in order. There is a mutable T-square. That's just an astrological way of saying a bunch of tension happening on Wednesday and Thursday. And that tension starts with the base of Venus opposite Mars. And Venus is the pulling the energy towards you planet. Mars is the pushing the energy away planet. It often comes up in relationships, like, the tension between the polarity of male versus female. It's all being squared off by the moon, Jupiter, and Neptune in Pisces, which makes the whole thing much more nebulous. So you might feel this inner tension, but not have any words for it, not know how to integrate it into your life. You just feel this something is coming and I don't know what to do about it. And it's okay if you don't know what to do about it, because you might not supposed to do anything about it this week. I think this is more of, it's just telling you where you might be going in the future, like a little warning light, that check engine light in your car that comes off and says, you really need to go and deal with this at some point in time, but you don't have to deal with it today. And then finally on the weekend, we have Neptune changing directions on Saturday. And that just means Neptune is flowing and stopping and turning around to go back to direct. And generally speaking, when Neptune is stopping moving, if you're tuned into the Neptune vibe, some people are, some people aren't. But if you're tuned in the Neptune vibe, you're just like, I don't feel like doing anything. Can I just sit here and like binge watch something on television and not have to do anything? So I think there's an overarching symbolism of, I don't want to do anything this week. So pay attention to what comes up, especially if it has to do with relationships. But I wouldn't stress. I mean, this is in the United States, this is the week after Thanksgiving. So I think people are a little hungover after the whole taking some time off. And I don't think there's going to be a lot of movement. People are distracted by holidays and everything else that's going on in the world. So cut yourself some slack. Don't stress. And recognize you can take these moments to rest while you can, because next year is not going to be quite as calm, at least between March and May, and really some parts of the end of the year too. So how's that?
I'd love to go into that a little bit, Donna. I mean,
Sure.
if we're, I know we're talking about this week upcoming, but if this week upcoming is essentially preparing for what's to come, perhaps we can spend a little more time on 2023 and what you're seeing. And I'll take this opportunity to also let everybody know that we do have our free 2023 forecast panel event happening on December 10th. If you haven't signed up for that yet, make sure you do. It's astrologyhub.com/2023 forecast. And we'll have lots of different astrologers giving their perspective on the year ahead. But Donna, I'd love to hear from you. Also, if you're in the inner circle, you'll be very happy to know that Donna is going to be our teacher for the Capricorn lunation starting in December. So December, January, Donna's going to be our teacher. I'll also have you tell us a little bit about your mastery class at the end of the weekly weather. But okay, so we're preparing this week. We have a very welcome reprieve in the astrological energies and the tensions and the conflict and all the things that we've been dealing with for a long time. And we're able to sort of pause and look forward. So tell us a little bit about your perspective on 2023. You've alluded to it a little bit, but let's go into it a little bit more.
Okay. So when we get into 2023, there's a couple of retrogrades in the beginning of the year, but then we switch into this 88-day period where there's nothing retrograde. 88 days with no retrogrades is a really long time. And it lasts from like the third week of January into sometime into April, I think. That's about 88 days. And so that first, the Capricorn lunation that I get to work with for the IC, I'm really excited that I have this month, because we have like this moment in time where we get to prepare for going full out energy wise for those next 88 days. Because then like the breaks start coming on in the process. So what's weird about this next few years, we are moving into what astrologers who watch the sky are very aware of the major lunar standstill that's happening. Now, I don't know if anybody has talked about this for Astrology Hub stuff. All right. A major lunar standstill, the moon's orbit isn't quite parallel with the way the sun goes around the earth. It's tilted 5 degrees. So at some points in time in our history, that adds to the height of the moon in the sky. And some parts it subtracts from the height of the moon in the sky. So we're entering one of those points where it adds to the height of the moon in the sky, which means if you're at like middle latitudes, like, 30 degrees north, 40 degrees north, which a lot of the world is, especially if they're tuning in to where you, I know you aren't, Amanda, but it's going to look like the moon is directly overhead instead of being like hugging the horizon. And having full moons right over your head feels really weird, especially if you have a lot of psychic stuff. So a major lunar standstill, when it happens, the moon is out of bounds every time it's in Cancer and Capricorn, and then Gemini and Sagittarius, and then Pisces and Virgo, which again adds, Aquarius and Leo, which moon out of bounds is like the rules of your emotions, the habits of your emotions are freed. So it's like, I am free to be wherever I want, for good or for ill. You can get yourself out of ruts a lot easier, but at the same time, you can get yourself in a lot of trouble a lot easier. So when these major lunar standstills happen, every 20 years or so, weird stuff happens in the global scene. Like we had World War II, we had the fall of the Berlin Wall. So this energy that's picking up in frequency over 20, especially, it started a couple of years ago. It just keeps getting more intense. So as we move into 24, 25, God, I can't believe I'm saying these years already. like major shifts happen in the way we organize things and what it's going to take to make that happen. I remember when the Berlin Wall came down, everyone was just standing there like, oh my gosh, what is happening? It's been this way for so long. And it was like out of the blue, but it really wasn't out of the blue because all this stuff was percolating, but no one was talking about it. So we're in the state, like whatever's going to happen is percolating. It's just not front of news because we are spending all the time talking about something else. So the stuff is already there. It's in process. It's going to start pulling things down in a way we haven't seen before. So that is just ongoing for the next few years. I think it's one of the biggest underrepresented stories in astrology because it's always linked in the 20th century to big shifts in life. Second World War, fall of the Iron Curtain, so to speak. Those are big things. So
real quick, before you go, the lunar standstill starts next year and goes.
Can think of it like a wave,
okay.
Just a wave. And so it actually started the first little pricklings of it a few years ago. And so right now, when the moon is in Capricorn and Cancer, it's out of bounds. It's just going to keep expanding then it will be out of bounds all the time when it's in Sagittarius and Gemini. And it'll expand a little further and it will also be out of bounds when it's in Leo and Aquarius.
The whole time it's in those signs?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. It's not just at the full moon. It's not just at the, so we'll have an out of bound moon at all those signs at increasing.
And so it's just sometimes it will be like a quarter moon and it will be out of bounds. And it's because Cancer and Capricorn mark the signs of the summer solstice and the winter solstice. So they're the highest and the lowest places in the zodiac anyway. So when you're adding an extra 5 degrees for the moon's orbit onto that, you can get the moon like way, it's like, it's like 30 degrees north latitude instead of its ordinary, 18 or 20 degrees. And that translates visually in our sky. If you are actually physically watching the sky, you're going to go out there. I went out the other day. I'm like, good gosh, and I live at 30 degrees north-ish. I went out there. I was like, the moon was almost in the northern half of the sky, which some people don't care. They don't have any idea what's going on out there. But if you do know what's going on out there, you're just like, did the moon move? That's not where it's supposed to be. it was really, really freaky. And it's rare that you see something that is so just poignant if you know what you're looking for. So
out of bounds essentially is like the playbook or the rule book is thrown out the door.
Like a sporting event has those guardrails at the side of the thing. And if you throw the ball outside, you have to stop the game. Well,
Right.
in this case, the game doesn't stop. It's just everybody's trampling people in the sidelines because they weren't set up to do that. So the moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars can go out of bounds. The rest of the planets don't usually. And the out of bounds, Mercury is out of bounds all the time. So he's crazy. Venus and Mars usually go out of bounds when they are around their retrogrades. Some years more than others, which would bring me to the next point, is that why the moon out of bounds is such a big deal, because Mars is also way freaking out of bounds right now, more out of bounds than I have seen Mars in a very long time. And that's because his retrograde was in Gemini, and that's one of those places where things go out of bounds. And so people are going to be like, yay, Mars's retrograde is done in January, but it's not, it's out of bounds until like May or June, like a really long time. And so with Mars being out of bounds and the moon being out of bounds, Mars is our energy principle, moon is our mood. This is when people get together and act in crazy kooky ways because the guardrails, they're like, they don't know, like they've gotten outside of their own comfort zones. They're not exactly sure what to do. It's incredibly creative because people will think outside the box, but it's also incredibly, it can be very destructive if people are like, I didn't sign up for that. And what the heck is happening? And if you happen to have planets that are resonating with that stuff going on, for you, it might be you feel urges and needs that you haven't thought about before. It could be that you feel urges and needs you haven't thought about before. It could be that you have friends or loved ones or spouses that are doing things that are like, whoa, I didn't sign up for that. That is like way weirder than I expected. And that's part of the shift that's happening. You know, so this shifty energy is being highlighted this year because the eclipses that we have are slightly unusual next year. In the sense, eclipses usually happen in signs opposite one another. So if you have an eclipse in Scorpio, then you have one in Taurus, and one's a solar eclipse and one's a lunar eclipse. They don't work that way next year because they're switching signs, and they happen to be switching from Taurus and Scorpio to Libra and Aries. But those signs are ruled by Mars and Venus. And so what's happening is we end up with two eclipses ruled by Mars, one in Scorpio and one in Aries at the same time. And then we have two ruled by Venus in the fall. So it's like this huge spotlight on Mars in the beginning half of the year. If Mars is out of bounds, woo, I'm doing it my way, woohoo, and then he's going to get eclipsed in his signs. I mean, that's going to change the way a lot of people express Mars principles in the world for whatever that relates to people. And Mars is our masculine side, our yang side, if you want to think about it that way, but it's also how we decide to go out there and get something. It's how we go out and chase what we want from the world. And the fact that it's happening in conjunction with this no retrograde thing, Mars is out of bounds, those are a heck of a lot of energy happening in those eclipses that are coming up. And it's right after Pluto moved into Aquarius. And so this shift that we haven't had happen since 2008. I mean, I remember it's so strange having been an astrologer long enough to have been looking at your ephemeris when these things were happening. And 2008, when Pluto moved into Capricorn for the first time, the stock market crashed. We're all like, wow, that's no fun for anybody, but it's so Pluto moving into Capricorn. So Pluto moving into Aquarius, slightly different. Aquarius is not an earth sign, it's an air sign. Aquarius has much more to do with how we communicate, with technology, with ideologies. Pluto moving into that's going to muck up all the questions about, what is real, how is technology shaping how we have opinions of things. And if you don't, that's already in the news. So we've got like 25 years coming up of more of that. So we are finally going to have to come to grips with how our reality bubbles, how our thought patterns, how we perceive the world shapes our experience of reality. And we're going to get feedback from that on the outside world in like immediate real time, and having to deal with that as we find solutions to all the whatever that comes up between now and then. I mean, if I were going to guess, it's going to be bubbling up about the stuff that already is. So race relations and climate change and technology are all, top 3 on the list, because that's just the world we live in. Turn on the news. That's what people talk about. So all of those things, we're going to have like a serious shift over the next few years, slowly at first, but increasing as everything moves into fire and air signs. It's very different vibes, a very Marsy vibe, because it's a very masculine vibe in how we go about figuring these things out. So I think it's we're moving into a lot. So when I see weeks like this one that's coming up, I'm like, I will take my day of no one calling me because the moon is void all day. Thank you very much. And I will use this next month and a half to get my ducks in a row, so that when we get into the 88 days of no retrogrades, I can like just start checking things off my list, because it'll make me feel better and understand that the changes that come because Mars is breaking down. Mars likes to separate us from things. Mars likes to change things. I can accept that energy in my life in a way that I can channel it to something useful. Personally, Amanda doesn't know, I have to move. So my parents have retired to Indiana. So I will be moving to Indianapolis right after all this happens next summer. So for me, it's going to be like literally taking down 30 years of my life experience here in Austin, putting it in boxes and moving across the country. But I knew this was going to happen, so I'm good. But for other people, it's going to be, especially if it's tied up in your chart, really considering what the next steps are going to be, because we have been futzing around in this breakdown point. Well, the new is coming. The new, I can now put on the calendar that your life will be different by the middle of 2026. So are you going to choose? Or are you going to let it happen to you? It's kind of my philosophy.
Wow. Thank you for that glimpse into 2023 and beyond. Donna, you kept saying if it's tied up in your chart. How do you know if it's tied up in your chart? Is there an easy way for you to identify signs that will be most affected?
For the Mars stuff, everyone has Scorpio and Aries in their chart someplace. So I would start by looking at which houses have Scorpio and Aries on the ascendant. I use whole sign houses because it's easier to figure out, but get your chart, look and see what those houses are. If you don't know what those houses mean, please use Amanda's handy dandy guide to the houses that she's putting out right now, because it will give you a lot of insight about what the stuff happening in those houses are. But definitely,
okay. What Donna's talking about is a free gift that's going along with our house series that I talked about in the beginning. And that's going to be available at astrologyhub.com/ruler. I'm not sure if it's available right this second, but if it's not right now, go check again later. And that's going to be a free guide that helps you figure out the rulers of the houses and how to look at your own chart and figure out who rules what and what's going on. So
that's good too. But let's start with the super simple. Whatever, everyone's got Aries and Scorpio somewhere in their charts. If you have Aries rising, then Aries is on the first house. If you have Taurus rising, then Aries is in your 12th house. And wherever it is, identify those two houses and then make sure you find out what those houses are about, because there's going to be a lot of energy moving into those houses, especially in the first half of the year. And you can add on to that. Yes, you can add on where Mars happens to be, where it is by transit. Nobody's life just happens one house at a time. It's not that simple. But at least you can begin to understand that the shift is coming. It's coming for all of us. I can't imagine anybody walking through what's coming and not feel like their life is different. Some people may feel like it's less different, but some people are going to feel like everything has changed. And that's a lot to say. It's just, we're not there yet. We're just March. We have the sun, Mercury, and Venus change houses usually once a month-ish. The moon changes houses, signs like every couple days. We also have Saturn, Pluto, and Mars changing signs as well. So that is, if you add the moon in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7 planets changing signs in 1 month. That is a lot. It's a huge amount to happen all at once. And when things change signs, that's the time people are most likely to feel a shift. It's hard to identify shifts when they're like moving between houses that you don't pay a lot of attention to in your life, but everybody notices those shifts in signs. It because the landscape, it's like moving to a different restaurant. You're like, whoa, everything is different. And so as we move into that, you kind of have to spend a lot of time with some soul searching, because it's like, do I like this? Do I not like this? How do I relate to this? It's an opportunity. I love that word, opportunity, to ask yourself, when, as well as I do, Amanda, when things shift, and there's a whole bunch of change in your life, it's a chance to like rewrite your habits, because what you did before, you have a little bit of a break to like say, I don't just have to go on autopilot. You have to think about it. So we're getting a lot of breaks next year so that you don't have to think about what's been on autopilot. And if you follow that, you can give yourself some pretty useful habits that will help you with what's coming next. And what can I say? I am looking forward to it, even if for me that means going through all of my stuff in my house and putting into boxes and making a lot of trips to Goodwill, because I think it's good to get a fresh start. For other people, it's going to manifest maybe not so visually, but people say they want change. I think there's a quote from Oprah that says, I don't pray for strength anymore, because God usually gives me circumstances that require me to be strong.
It's a good point.
So next year is a big old prayer for strength, because that strength is Mars. And we're all going to have to practice that for how that manifests. We're all unique. And it's going to be interesting as we move into this new strange world. And I think it's too easy for people to say, oh, this is the way it is, and I can't see any way out. And life's not like that. And sometimes we get hit upside the head with a way out. And a lot more of that's going to be happening for people.
What you're talking about in terms of creating new habits, and that life at mid 2026, life as we know it now will look completely different. I'm actually listening to an audio book right now by Dr. Joe Dispenza called Becoming Supernatural, that Jamie McGee on our team recommended. And it's all about creating new neural networks in the brain and new habits, and also leveraging the void space to enter into creation and enter into that unknown and sort of live there as much as possible, and then be surprised by what happens. And I was reflecting, I think it was today or maybe yesterday, about how when I was 30, I was living a life that when I was 20, I could have never imagined. I was living in New York City. I was running this tech company. I was married to the guy that I had just met, then at 20, and so I could have never have imagined it. And then when I was 40, I was living a life that when I was 30, I could have never imagined. I'm in Hawaii. I'm running an astrology company. I'm like, what? This is so random. So then I thought, wow, well, what am I going to be doing when I'm 50 that I couldn't imagine now? That I couldn't imagine at 44. And I think if we can enter into some, I mean, of course, so many things have happened in those time periods, some amazingly miraculous and exciting, and some super painful and challenging and hard. And yet it's amazing how life unfolds and how all the things we're doing right now, whether we're aware of it or not, are preparing us for that next thing that's coming that we can't see. So I love this idea of taking this week to be in some of that creative space, to be in some of that welcoming in of something new, and then trusting in the process that, I always feel like the details of the vision are never quite exactly what I thought, but the qualities. I wanted to be passionate about my work. I wanted to help people. I wanted to be surrounded in nature and with community. And I want, all these things that I wanted. I would have never said, well, so I'm going to go build an astrology business and that's what's going to happen. And like none of that would have even computed. So it sounds to me that we're in that sort of 0 point place. I think we have clues that, like you said, it's been percolating. It's not like we have no idea, but there is a lot of change on the horizon. There is a lot of newness, and having a sense of adventure, I feel, is sometimes so helpful to, when we're approaching these times.
I think one of the biggest, what do you call it? Qualities of someone who deals with the void space well is to be able to turn within your own heart and your own mind and feel that divine spark within you. And if you can hold on to that divine spark, so there's a feeling of presence, no matter what, you can handle a whole lot more crazy in the outside world than you can if you tune in and feel like you're empty. And there's nothing, like you feel like you are the void, as opposed to, you know what I mean? And so all the spiritual work that you do that keeps that small divine spark or connects you to that spark, however you want to conceive it, is the absolute best insurance you can give yourself for all the crazy that's coming, because you're just more resilient and you're more okay with difference and you're more okay with not understanding because you feel like there's something supporting you from the inside.
Yes, I love that. Donna, one more question about 2023, and then I'll do the recap on the week, and even I'll do my best to recap some of the things you said about the year ahead also. But would you say that as we go into 2023, there is, because of Saturn moving into Pisces, potentially, more access to some of that grounded spirituality that we can actually use in our day-to-day life to help us navigate this, quote unquote, third dimensional reality?
I can hope. We didn't even get to talk about Saturn moving into Pisces. Saturn moving into the Pisces 2 weeks before Pluto's moving into Aquarius, and it's going to be there for 3 years. Saturn is structure. It pulls our energy down and makes us grounded. It's also rules. It's also practice. Pisces has no boundaries whatsoever. It's just kind of like, woo, wait, wow. So talking about the void, it's the sign of the void. So Saturn moving into Pisces is a lot about how you put together a spiritual practice that allows you to be in this void space and not feel like you're losing as a practice, meaning it is not enough to like, oh, I should meditate and I will meditate today, and then you never do it again. Meditation is like going to the gym for your spiritual life. You do it every day, like as long as you intend on maintaining your spiritual relationship with your inner world. You don't just, go once a week or once a month. You need more than that. And that's a gift that Saturn and Pisces can bring us. It can also bring about Saturn's rules and laws and authorities. Pisces is all kinds of things like, drugs and imagination spaces and stuff. And so it can be the government moving into those things. It can be propaganda, the government moving into those things. It can be all kinds of stuff. But the beauty of understanding astrology, there are many good things about understanding astrology, but one of my favorite things is recognizing that the energy is going to manifest anyway. So here is your choice. You can manifest it over here in the, hey, I'm going to start a daily spiritual practice that helps me support the spark of divine within me. Or you can manifest it over there with, oh, I guess the government's going to come and mess around with legalizing marijuana and who knows what else, or put out big propaganda campaigns. And you could manifest it over there if that's where you want to spend your time. And there's no wrong, there's no right. There's only what makes you feel like you in your grand exploration of what you are. And I know what I want to choose because I am a crazy Virgo. But you need to decide what you're going to choose with these energies, because if you don't choose and use and work with the energies consciously, I promise you it will be chosen for you. And all the people who are like, go do the research for yourself, you got to go beyond that. Really, it's getting on the internet and surfing around is not research. Research is actually going in and having the experience for yourself. That way you understand it from the inside out. And I can hope we use this energy. You know, we all know the world could use that boost right now, but everyone does have a choice in this process.
I don't know if you're all noticing, but I am having a moment of listening to Donna speak and being so grateful that you were one of my first teachers in astrology, because that perspective of like, be aware of the energy, be aware of the astrology so that you have choice. So that you're aware of the spectrum of possibilities of the way it can express itself. And you get to participate in that. You're not a victim of it. It exists and you are choosing. But I'm hearing you speak. It's like, oh my gosh, I feel like I say something like that all the time. And that the seed of that is so much in my learning from you from almost the very beginning of my astrology journey. So wow, it's a breath of fresh air. Thank you, Donna.
I'm grateful for you too, Amanda. What can I say? That you can bring these ideas to so many people in such an approachable, understandable, open-hearted way. That's a miracle to me.
Thank you, Donna. Jeez. Okay, awesome. All right, so let's do the week and the year. And basically what you're saying for this week is this is a week to chill, that there could be a little bit of relationship tension, but that there's some big changes coming in 2023, starting around March, and that this is a good time to do some preparation. Maybe do a meditation around that divine spark in your heart. I've done some cool meditations around that.
Make them available to everyone.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, so I've done it in the inner circle for one of our new moon ceremonies, and
Maybe
it's
put in the
powerful.
show notes or something.
Yeah. Okay, so this is a preparation week.
If you're gonna do stuff this week, get it done on Monday. That's what it comes down to. If you have stuff that you have to check off that you can't wait, just do it and get it over with. Eat that frog, as they say, and maybe like do the rest of the cleanup on Tuesday. People are going to be a little more grouchy on Wednesday and Thursday, and they're going to be like off in la la land with no energy by the weekend. So,
and that includes Friday, because that's one day you didn't cover.
Yeah, because nothing is happening on Friday.
Okay. All right. So in 2023, we have 88 days of no retrograde, which is basically January through April.
Yeah. Well,
right?
It starts on January 18th, I think. So 3 months after that ish. So that's
amazing. And I mean, I don't know about all of you, but when you start tracking those big retrograde periods where there's nothing retrograde or where there's a lot of retrograde, you can start to really feel these tides. And 88 days of no retrograde feels like amazing.
Insanely long. I have never seen one that long before. I mean, doesn't mean it's not possible. It's just
wow.
88 days is approximately the space between Mercury retrogrades, and that's what it is. We have 2 Mercury retrogrades and nothing happening between them.
Wow.
Isn't that wild?
It's wild and it's awesome. So that I love what you're saying about getting your ducks in a row now so that anything you want to press go on in that time period, you're ready for it. So maybe you're starting a new business, maybe you're writing a book, maybe there's some sort of project you want to do, maybe there's some, climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. I don't know.
Like you could set like an 88-day challenge for yourself, that you do something every day for 88 days, and you can change your whole life in 88 days. I promise you. It's enough to start a new habit of any kind. It's enough to rewire your brain.
Wow.
So see what that looks like for you.
Ding, ding, ding. There's an idea there. I like that. Maybe we could do that together somehow, all of us. Okay. Anyways, yeah, I'm thinking about that. Okay. You talked about this lunar standstill idea, which is actually the first
major lunar standstill.
Never heard of this before.
And that's our astrology's fault, because astrology isn't as visual as it used to be. This is a hugely visual thing. There are stone circles built all over Europe that would calculate this and when they would have happened, because you have to look up in the sky to see how high things are. And it's something the ancients worked with a lot more than we do today, because we're used to looking at flat charts instead of the sky.
And the basic reason why it was so important that they were creating monuments and tracking it is because everything was
okay. Do you know how potholes form? I know it's a terrible, like, boring thing, but potholes form because you freeze the road, it contracts, expands, it contracts, expands, and in that contraction and expansion, it crumbles the asphalt and it makes holes in the road, and eventually the road would fall apart. Well, when we're having major lunar standstills, it's contracting and releasing the energy of the moon much more intensely because of the way it's aligned with the sun. So it's breaking down old systems much faster than we are when we're in a normal state of time. And so that's why it's associated with the literal crumbling of the Berlin Wall. The crumbling of the European order that led up to the First World War and the Second World War. These are big social shifts that, because it's the moon's moving so fast, there's no better trigger mechanism for all of the astrological elements that are up there. And so since we have both things coming into aspect at the same time, we have all of these major shifts in planetary energies. We have these crazy eclipses, and they're going to get crazier because soon they're going to be moving over the United States. We're going to see 2 visible total solar eclipses over the United States in 2023 and 2024. And it's happening in conjunction with a major lunar standstill. So it's like change in a way that the moon is triggering it to actually make things fall apart. So
when you were just describing that moon process of like, it helps to accelerate change, it reminded me of contractions in labor. Like, we are literally like, the change is getting sped up and there's something new being born. And that's what all these planetary configurations are expediting the process. But like, towards the end of birthing a baby, things speed up and it gets really fast. And then the baby comes.
The other thing that the moon does, it governs the physical tides, like the physical oceans. So there are, I watch the news all the time because I know what's coming. And so I know what to look for. When scientists come back and say, we were wildly off on how long this, glacier in Antarctica is going to last. We thought it was going to last 50 years. We realized it was only going to last 5 years and the whole thing is going to collapse. And I'm like, you don't even have 5 years. You have maybe 3. Because of the major lunar standstill, it literally breaks down icebergs and sends them into the ocean, because those are the things the moon rules, and it rules our gravity field. And since it's shifting, some of these things that they're saying about climate change, about the destruction of various glaciers in various parts of the world, they're going to happen faster. And because they're going to happen faster, it's going to accelerate some of the climate change, some of the ocean level rising that people have been talking about in ways that they underpredicted. And I will go on. I'm going on the record for this right now because I'm talking to all of you, but I'm fairly confident, given what I've seen in the news already, that this is one of those factors that's going to lead to some of the changes that are happening. So if you happen to be listening to this and you happen to be living in a flood zone and you happen to be near one of the places that is already starting to flood, it's not going to change. Thinking happy thoughts that you're going to be fine if your street is already flooding is probably bad. You should consider going now, now, and no more waiting, because technically you might have 2 or 3 years left to go, but the water's going to be in your living room. And so this is, I'm not a fear-based astrologer. I don't like to scare people, but I'm also like looking at everything that's happening, looking and seeing what's going to happen in the sky. And what are you following astrology for if you don't want to hear these messages? Are you
yeah. I mean, I think our community is very open to hearing the interpretations of astrologers and what the astrology is pointing at and being realists about that. So I think
this is like, we have super moons a couple times a year. It's totally normal. But the crazy super moons that were happening that threw the icebergs into the northern Atlantic, one of those sunk the Titanic. So if we hadn't been having supermoon at that time, we might not have had the same kind of level of icebergs, which may have let the Titanic go through. So it's never anything specific, but given how much we are already on the edge, it's moments like this that are just, I know they're like the last straw that breaks the camel's back. And we have no space left for some of these things. And if the scientists are saying it, who don't even believe in astrology, I begin to suspect that these things are going to add up and the change is going to happen faster than we expect. So get your ducks in a row. Make the decisions that make sense for you and your family and your friends and your loved ones. And if you have people around you that don't support you and your spiritual practice, there's a good chance they're not going to make it through the next few years because you are going to be different in this process if you are going to keep growing. And I said, you don't have to make that change today, not even this year, but change is coming. Prepare yourself and understand that it's about aligning with your soul and what it's here to do, and not about what's convenient for you. I mean, it is not convenient for me to move to Indianapolis, but it's the right thing to do for multiple reasons. And so I'm going to do it, and I'm not going to kick and scream about it because, and even if I was, they keep raising my rent at the crazy rate they're raising it. These things, they're like little nudges from the cosmos to do what you know you need to do. You know, you might have felt this at work. You might have felt this in your relationships. You might have felt this in where you live. You're getting the nudges now. Great week to pay attention to the nudges, but the nudges are coming, and don't stick your fingers in your ears and go, la, 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 I'm not listening. Maybe it will go away. It's not going away. It's just going to get louder.
Laying it down, headmistress. Okay. So we have a lot of different things happening in 2023 around the eclipses, 2 of them ruled by Mars, 2 ruled by Venus. Lots of different energy around that. Pluto moving into Aquarius. This is going to be a lot of changes for the next 25 years around the way we communicate, technology, ideologies, what is real, what is not real. That's fascinating. I'm sure we could dedicate a whole entire episode to that. This is, again, use this month and a half to get your ducks in a row. And by 2026, life will be completely different. And that's basically what I have. So
enough.
I mean, that's it. Come on, Donna. That's all you're going to give us? Oh my gosh. Fascinating. Thank you for allowing us to step back for a minute, because on the weekly weather, there's always enough astrology happening in that week that we're usually very focused on the week. But I love the opportunity to pan out and take stock of where we are in the bigger unfolding story.
I think it's much more interesting than, the fact that Mars is opposite Venus. Honestly, I think, things that happen for a day, sure, they may be important like for a moment, but these are all taking place in this grand story unfolding. I want to be in part of the grand story. And Yes, I will do my work for the week, but Sagittarius me, well, Sagittarius rising me anyway. I want to be out there where the big stuff is happening.
Donna, if you had to, I'm going to have all the astrologers who are on our 2023 panel do this. But since you aren't going to be on that panel, I want to ask you this question. What would you say is the theme of 2023 if you had to like label it?
You put me on the spot there.
Oh, I know.
I want to say something like having a new vision. But that doesn't sound like it's enough. Unless you want to put in there, if you are living a life where you have a vision of what you need to do and where you want to go, and you're finally starting to shift your life so that you actually do things that relate to that vision. I'm not sure what that's called. I mean, some people wander around and they just do stuff and they say they have a vision, but they don't really, because what they're doing every day has absolutely nothing to do with the vision they say they want. And this is a year to stop that and to like be really crystal clear about making your life match your vision. That's as good as I can get.
So aligning your life with your big vision. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
If you can do that by the end of the year, you are like way ahead of the game.
Amazing. Okay, Donna, I'm going to offer, first of all, we can close out here for anybody not interested in hearing about Donna's mastery class that's coming up for the Inner Circle in December, January, but I want to do this for the Inner Circle members. And also anybody who decides to join us in March, we are considering offering Donna's class as a bonus for members that join in March. So anyways, but I would love to hear about that. Before you go into that, I just want to sign off for anybody who's not interested in hearing about it. But thank you for joining us. And also make sure you join the free forecast event. We're going to go into even more detail on 2023. And what I love is that different astrologers have their eye on different aspects. Like Donna brought in this major lunar standstill. I don't know if anybody else is talking about that, but other astrologers, they'll be talking about other things. So I would love to have you at that event. If you can join us, it's December 10th. It will be recorded, but only available to the people who register. So make sure you register. If you're an Inner Circle member, you don't have to register. You're already enrolled. You'll get all the details, but go to astrologyhub.com/2023 forecast and join us for that on December 10th. I'm so excited. The other thing you're going to get the panel, and then you're going to get 7 days of bonus videos that are the breakdown of the year by sign. So you'll get sign specific details on the year ahead in your inbox, delivered by different astrologers. This is something new we're doing this year, which I'm excited about. So Donna, let's talk about your mastery class for the Inner Circle. What is it?
I am going to be talking about how you use the part of spirit and the part of fortune in your charts. But really, I'm talking about a whole lot more than that, because the part of spirit and the part of fortune are the leftovers of using astrology to make magic and to become enlightened.
Whoa.
So we're going to talk about, yes, I know. We're going to talk about why we have these points, what they were for, and how they use them as a connection points between above and below. So not only how you can think of them in your personal charts, but how you can use them for all kinds of other things, like your relationship charts, or the charts for choosing when you want to, act, or forecasting charts for when things might want to happen. They're uber powerful and totally cool and utterly underutilized because we don't really understand what they're for anymore. So I'm excited.
Amazing.
I know. And if I have more time, I will probably stick in some of those other special points, like the lot of Venus and the lot of Mars and some other things that might be super useful this year as we decide how and when we want to make our changes.
Amazing. Okay. Also, if you haven't taken Donna's course that she did with us, it used to be called Shamanic Astrology. It's now called Intro to Astrological Magic, and you can still tune into this. So this would be a great class to take to get ready for Donna's month. It's very accessible for all levels of astrology. And it will really help you start to cultivate that direct relationship with the planets, understand the things that the planets like, start to incorporate those things into your life. She even does meditations for each of the planets. It's really, really awesome class. It's very visually beautiful as well. That's at astrologyhub.com/magic intro, astrologyhub.com/magic intro. And I'm so excited to have you back in the fold as a teacher with us at Astrology Hub, Donna. You are amazing. I learn so much every time you open your mouth. I swear.
I am always honored to be in the presence of you and Astrology Hub. I think you are the best thing to have happened to the astrology community in a very long time, because not only are you bringing together a diversity of amazing voices, you're doing it from the place of aloha, of the heart-centered community building space. And you cannot have change if you don't have that safe space in which to change. And for that, thank you very much.
Oh my gosh, Donna, you are welcome. It is a joy. Thank you so much for being with us. Thanks to all of you for tuning in. Thank you for just making astrology a part of the way that you live your life. And thank you for the curiosity you have and the sincerity you bring every single week to understanding the energies. It's just a pleasure to share this with you. And it's a pleasure to share amazing master teachers like Donna with all of you. So thank you very much for being here. And I can't wait to catch you on the next episode. Stay tuned for the house series that starts this week. It's awesome. It's so cool. Donna's a part of that. She's the third house. You're going to hear first house from Sam Reynolds, second house from Georgia Stathis, third house from Donna, and then I'll leave the rest as a surprise. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. And I'll look forward to connecting with you soon. Take care. My first astrology reading literally changed my life. I was in the midst of a significant dark night of the soul, and that reading gave me the hope and confidence that I needed to continue on my path, no matter how challenging things were. I've had the pleasure of seeing the impact that a high-quality reading can have on thousands of our community members. This is why we at Astrology Hub have been working so hard to create a platform where you can find and book astrology readings with the most trusted and experienced astrologers in the world. We've created a new platform called Astrologer Connect, and we've been testing it with our inner circle members with great success. So I'm inviting you to get on the waitlist now so you can be first to book when we do open the platform. You can go to astrologyhub.com/readings and secure your spot today. I can't wait to hear your story after you've had the chance to consult with one of our amazing astrologers, many of whom you've met here on the podcast. Getting on the waitlist is completely free and it doesn't bind you to anything. Go to astrologyhub.com/readings today.